This askreddit user asks, people who let their mom count to 0, what happened after? It hurt until 2005. But I felt like a special someone in 2006. I got a privilege taken away. After that would come immediate buyer's remorse. I'd do whatever it was she had wanted me to do in the first place. Cry. And beg. And I never, ever got her to reverse her decision. My mom's a tough cookie. And it took me way too long to catch on. Lol. I guess I wasn't exactly the brightest child. I gotta say, the last time my mom ever tried to spank me I dove right between her legs. Knocked her over. And ran like AFG wild hog. I guess she realized then that she was too old for this. Lol. The chase of a lifetime that ended in a red-hot posterior. She was paddling me with a small, handled wooden cutting board, but it split along the grain and I made the mistake of laughing, so she grabbed a wooden spoon. My grandma got so very pd a couple of my cousins once that she started throwing whatever she could get her hands on. Shoes, spoons, brushes, but they were dancing around so much trying to dodge that they burst out laughing. This only pd her off more, and their brother decided to help her out by bringing the stuff she threw back to her so she never ran out of ammo. But this only made them laugh harder while simultaneously yelling at him to stop. They reached a stalemate when they all got tired to carry on. Remember how Grandma would use to play the dodging game with us? She yelled my name real loud. And Daddy said, "Why don't you ever do that for me?" I stupidly said, "Wow, I didn't know you could count," and she beat the soul out of me. I saw everything that had ever happened in any place ever all at the same time. I saw every great extinction event in reverse, and the thunderous slaps had FG reverb. She beat me like a sexually frustrated teen beats their meat. She hit me so hard I saw new colors. Her grip was like a jaguar's jaws on a gazelle's neck. There was no escape. No one who let their mom get to 0 is around to tell the tale. I'll never know. She got to 7 and, being the resident smartass, I said, "Oh cool. Showing off again. Mom?" Quote. That went real well for me. I think it was a fair enough question. Seriously. What number was she aiming for, or what number did she start at? Listen son. I can count to 12 now. Quote. My powers have doubled since last time we met. Count. The chancla. I wonder how la chancla became such a universal tool of punishment for Hispanic kids. Behold. The secret of la chancla. Your parents counted? 3, 2, 1, 0. The sound of a belt coming undone through the loops of pants frightened me. Wooden spoon impact. Edit. I see a lot of people asking if I'm Italian, Irish, or even Polish. Nope. American. But the art of the wooden spoon was taught through many generations in our family. I'm just thankful I never got the belt. In my story, my mom pulled out a wooden spoon and hit the table with it to be very menacing. Unfortunately for her, she hit the table hard enough that the spoon snapped and the round part went flying off. My sister and I, 2 years apart, burst out laughing, and my mom couldn't help but laugh too. I don't honestly remember her threatening a wooden spoon after that. Horribly slow murder with a spoon? No, but that ST hurts for real. We had one with a hole in it. That was the "you really screwed up" spoon. Out of us 3 kids I was the only one who got it though. And repeatedly. She started counting to negative numbers. I think mine did fractions. 1/2. 1/4. Quote. So she never reached 0? Zeno's paradox. I let her divide by 0 once. A black hole opened up and all hell broke loose. Heck. Sorry mom. P.S. My mom started at 0. 0. Immediately punches you. Spawn kill. God. I wish my mom's spawn killed me. Tried it once. She gave a defeated sigh. Then chuckled. Then she said something like, "You're getting too old." That was the day I became a man. I'll never forget my 32nd birthday. You get old enough and you start to like it. I'll whoop your ass. Quote. Really? You promise? Quote. This is how I defeated spankings as a preteen. That's a FG power move. Am I the only one whose mom counted to 3? I never got in trouble. But my sister did. She let my mother count to 0. She just got shouted at. My sister ran upstairs crying. Oh Lord, she comin'. I'm just piggybacking off this comment because it was literally an oh Lord moment. Quote. My mum is quite deaf. About 85% of her hearing is gone. Well, around the time it first started to fade, she was in a foul mood. She screamed at me to tell my cousin to come downstairs and come and eat. As I turned and said, okay, and she could not read my lips, I just heard her scream from behind me. I said, go and get your cousin. As she opened the freezer door, pulled out a frozen loaf of bread and launched it directly at my head. I woke up about 90 seconds later with her sobbing on top of me and with a pounding headache. And she never hit me again. We also got McDonald's after. How old were you when you go knocked TF out with a frozen loaf of bread? When a BH is frozen, you can imagine it as a rock. Source. Got a concussion from frozen meat. This is Alex's mother here posting. I'm posting on his behalf as I counted to 0. He did not survive. Alright. I'm coming in late here, but this reminded me of the time I went the distance with my mom. My whole life we've rarely argued, and during my entire upbringing we only had a few actual fights. All of which were 100% my fault. The point I'm making is that my mom is a really sweet, genuine person who did an amazing job raising 2 boys on her own. When I was 12, I had a bad day and got home in a mood. I wasn't quite looking for a fight per se. But I was being a crabby, snappy, negative jerk. Mom put up with it for a while and then had enough. I can't recall the catalyst, but she wanted me to do something and I refused. So the count came. 3. Quote. 2. Quote. And I interjected. 1. BH. Quote. There was a stunned silence for a moment, and then she looked at me with rage in her eyes. I'm sorry. I pleaded, but I had crossed a line and punishment was coming. She moved so fast. Like a blur, and I was frozen. I was taller than her, but she scooped me up, thrust me in a chair and told me to wait there. Her voice had both ice and heat. How is that possible? She came back with a bar of ivory soap which she jammed into my mouth. It was gross, with high notes of bitter soap taste but also a strange sickly sweetness that made me want to gag. And that's how I know that Dr. Pepper tastes like Robitussin with ivory soap. A splash of prune juice and carbonated water. I think I got grounded as well, but the fear she instilled really did the trick. I had my sister's Hello Kitty belt imprint left on my ass. I see this as an absolute win. I'd be showing off my new Hello Kitty tat to all the neighbor kids. Talk dirty to me, baby. The doctor diagnosed her with dyscalculia. Everything goes black and the last thing I see is my mother's slipper speeding toward me. It's funny how they can make getting hit by fuzzy pink slipper feel like getting hit by a Mack truck. Why is that? I've been hit with rocks, fists, baseball bats, and a car. But they didn't hurt half as much as that FG spatula. Because the spatula loves you. And you disappointed them. It makes it hurt worse. I used to not know what would happen when I counted to 10. My son has let me get there once. And it ended with me literally wrestling him into his pajamas and him going to bed without getting to read any books. He was very upset. And I felt like a terrible person. But he hasn't let me go past 7 since that day. Array out of bounds exception. I died. Did you die? Yes. But I lived. Half of my respiratory organs were destroyed. Plus ultra. Question mark. Go beyond. Mom. Why do you think I'm mad? Me. Because I am here. My mom counted up. And if I wasn't making moves, she suddenly became a sloth. ONAA. 2. You better move your BT. 2.5 FFFFFFF. Quote. I was APY. I never let her get to 3. You are FG done, followed by my entire name. With emphasis on my middle. Followed by an AS beating I still remember 15 years later. I'm gonna count again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.5, 1.25, 1 1/8. Oh bless you. I'd forgotten I played that game with my parents. The first time I heard 2, 1.5, 1.25, quote comma, I asked why the numbers weren't getting smaller anymore. And got my first fraction lesson. That time it was an effective tool because I was so fascinated by the concept of fractions that I stopped fighting leaving the pool. The game was a reward of sorts. When I thought I'd been good enough to get an extra minute before bed. In the bath. Etc. After mom or dad got to 2. I'd say, 1.5? Quote. I didn't always get to play. On days when we had a minute to spare and I'd behaved. The response was, 1.25, and the game was on. We went back and forth. Saying a number smaller than the one before. When I messed up and accidentally went up numerically. The game was over, and I had to do whatever it was they were counting for. They made it harder as I got older. Jumping random intervals. But they stopped when I finally completely understood fractions. And could go on for hours. Dad later used the game to teach me how negative numbers work. But I caught on to that one quickly. Number games like that are also fun in the car. I love short stories about personal experiences. Super cute sounding family congrats. Ask my oxygen tank. She slapped the soul out of my body and it ricocheted back in me. This is Reddit. Not a Ouija board. H.E.L. She reset me to the factory settings. A hard reset, as we called it. I can physically feel pain just reading these comments. They triggered my childhood trauma. Parents in India can be complete AS. Weaklings. My mother would count after I was already whooped to give me time to stop crying or I'll be whooped again. Stop crying. Or I'll give you something to cry about for real. Quote. Yep. That was the one that shut me up. There was nothing hollow about that threat lol. She's currently on 1,125,899,906,842,624. I'll let you know if she ever gets there. If anyone needs a reference. That's 1/2. 50. If your mom counts one number every second. And has been having the fraction each time. She hasn't even been counting for a full minute yet. They did the math. Moms never get to 0. There's fractions out there you can't even imagine. 1 9/2. Bold of you to assume that they are alive to tell their story. Yes. I am actually dead right now. Yay. My mom got to 0. And I died from fear. Then she got super angry and started counting for me to come back to life. So I resurrected the FK up. And never got to 0 again. My mom went from 0 to 60. In 1.9 secs. The Big Bang. Isn't that how you were made? You know what a switch is. And I'm not talking about Nintendo. Explain. My uncultured AE doesn't know. Thin stick used as a whip. He tops and bottoms. She smiled and embraced me. You've passed the test. She said. You are a man now. The next day I woke up and I was a plumber with 20 years experience. Did you befriend a royalty with bunch of chain-smoking tiny guys with mushroom hats afterwards? My ears are still ringing. Seriously. I got a minor case of tinnitus. 100%. It was my grandma because mom didn't give warnings like that. Grandma is tiny. So we didn't worry. Normally we would step in line at 2. Once. Around 13. I decided to stand my ground and her little arm made contact with the side of my head with the speed of a timber rattler. That day was rough. We learned that running from her was much more effective. Then, she learned that we were not worthy of warnings. I'm 6 feet 5 inches. My Nana is about 5 feet 2 inches. One day I was being a smart AE to her and my cousin. She told me to stop picking on my cousin or she'll smack me one. I kept going. My Nana came up beside me and asked me to steady her while she leaned on me. I didn't think anything of it until she smacked me in the back of the head with her slipper and said, "I told you I'd smack you one if you didn't cut it out." I was 27 at the time. I'm loving this. You made my morning.